It's the New Normal Podcast with Adam Brandt. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to It's the New Normal Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Brandt, aka the Chubby Snowbird. I'm recording today as Donald Trump moves back into the White House as the 47th president of these amazing United States of America. Surely people on both sides are losing their shit and will do so until 2028. But I'm hopeful that a few of his policies can and will make my life better. One big thing he talked about was removing the tax burden from tipped income. I think this is going to be great for tipped employees, and it could save many service-based workers thousands of dollars per year. That's the new normal I'm talking about. However, it did get me thinking about the whole tip culture and the many layers that you have to peel back to really get an idea of how fucked up it is. Let's get into it. Like many of you, I had a few gifts that didn't quite make the cut over the holidays. Mainly shit I thought my wife would like that I had to return to Amazon. Luckily for me, the UPS store is just down the street from our condo. So I'm standing there 20 deep in line with every other husband in the neighborhood that must not listen when their wives drop not so subtle clues as to what they'd like for Christmas. Anyhow, I'm standing there wondering why only one person is working. I mean, it has to be the very busiest time for UPS, right after Christmas there. So I'm curiously gazing around, my eyes wandering. A tip jar? Are you fucking kidding me? A tip jar at the UPS store? A little background on me. I started my employment journey at Bob Evans Restaurant when I was 16 years old. So 1995. I've spent the bulk of my adult life working in the food service industry. For the better part of the last 25 years, tips have played a vital role in my economic well-being. I was a bartender for well over a decade, with tips being my main source of income. I worked hard for those tips and appreciated each and every one. I saved tips for years to build my dream food truck. And even today, tips are a large portion of our income. I'd like to think that I'm a great tipper when Mrs. Snowbird and I dine out. I get it. But seeing a tip jar at a UPS store really got me thinking about the whole concept of tipping. Tipping at restaurants is so common, at least here in America, that it's pretty much a requirement. We've all seen those social media posts showing a receipt with no tip. Some caption just destroying the fuck out of those assholes that don't tip. I used to sympathize with these posts as I recall the feeling I'd get when some asshole non-tipping customer would sit at the bar, have the balls to expect me to give them the same level of service and attention I'd give to my amazing tipping customers. Today, I sort of side with the people that don't tip because they're required to or feel bullied into it. A tip should be an extra payment to someone who gives exceptional service. A tip shouldn't be a subsidy allowing business owners to pay a shitty hourly wage. Oh, but if we raise their pay, we're gonna have to charge more. I get that 100%, and it's fucking true. But here we are in 2025, and fast food workers are getting $20+ an hour, and all across the US, servers and bartenders can still legally be paid just a few bucks an hour. That's fucking crazy. That leaves a bulk of their pay up to you and I. One of the more striking aspects of tipped income is the disparity in pay for doing the exact same job. An example being, server A works their ass off in a small family-owned diner, seating the table, retrieving drinks, refilling coffee 4 times, making the salad, bringing the food, bussing the table, and so on, for a $20 meal. Typical guidance, no pun intended, of 20% left for a tip on the total bill means the server spent the last hour running around for $4. Well, the server had 5 tables, full of happy assholes, and made $20 that hour. Now take server B, who works at the fanciest steakhouse in town. You know, $90 steak, $30 sides, $20 margaritas. This server may come out and explain the special menu, may or may not bring you a cocktail, may or may not bring your food. Heaven forbid they do any cleaning. Their main job is to oversell you on dessert. And then here comes the bill, $200. 10 times more than the meal at the diner. Once again, 20% guidance for tipping means server B should make $40 for doing arguably less work than server A. Okay. I understand that server B has to tip out a busser, a food runner, and a bartender. So maybe they get 10% each. $28 per hour server B is left with for doing the same exact job. Is percentage-based tipping fair? I don't know if that's a question for you and I to decide, as the common answer to these gripes is both servers chose their job. If they don't like it, both of them can change their situation. And this is 100% true. But often, food service workers feel stuck. They're stuck in their situation, and it's a really tough business to escape from. Why does the food service tipping rules exclude fast food? Do you tip the FedEx driver like you tip the Uber Eats driver? I mean, they're both delivering shit to your front door. How did we decide that UPS, FedEx, and Amazon drivers aren't really tippable, but DoorDash, Grubhub, and grocery delivery people require a huge tip? Should we tip by the mile, or do you tip by a percentage of the order? None of us can figure this out. But we do know that if we don't leave a tip in advance, we can expect shitty service. There is so much wrong with this. Expecting a tip before service is performed, where we all come from, is called a bribe. Some of these food delivery drivers won't pick an order up unless there's a big tip already attached to the order. Small tip or no tip, your shit is going to be ice cold with the freshest French fry going to the driver and not to you. I'm not saying people don't deserve tips. Shit. Back in my bartending days, tipping $1 per drink seemed to be the norm. That didn't matter if I grabbed a beer, opened the cap, I poured a giant glass of beer, maybe I had to mix a rum and coke, but the dollar tip per drink was quite standard across the board. Now, if they had lunch or dinner, the rules of percentage-based tipping took precedent. So they'd have a bill with food and drinks, and hopefully I'd get 20%. Nowadays, a draft beer is $7. So if I leave $1, I'm not even tipping 20%. And that just feels so wrong to me. So let's say Mrs. Snowbird and I go out and have 3 beers apiece. Our bill comes to $42. What should I tip? The $6 for $1 a beer? No, I'm probably going to give them a $50 and call it a day. Every employment sector must have caught on to the tip thing. Most of our lives, we've had a list of services where tipping made sense. Restaurants, barbers, hairstylists, the pizza delivery guy, masseuses, movers, maybe the appliance delivery folks. Keep in mind, this is middle class, Midwest America, where surely in the big cities, you've got valet attendants, doormen, concierge personnel, maid service, shoe shines, and other similar services that folks in Ohio aren't as accustomed to using. I'm not saying people don't deserve tips. Shit, you remember my name, order, and you're able to share a pleasantry, even a smile? Awesome, here's your tip. Hey, you saved me a trip, you saved me time, my stuff arrived perfectly, here's your tip. But I have to agree with the 3 out of 4 people polled recently about tipping culture being absurdly out of control. Baristas, fast food, slow food, drive-through window tip jars. I just tipped the guys who installed my new microwave over the range. Was I supposed to? I don't know. Anyhow, a couple weeks ago, we decided to give the 4Runner a bath. I overpaid for the works. The underbody, the wax, the tires. So anyhow, I pull up, and a young lady takes my cash for the robotic wash. She holds out her hand for a tip. She wasn't fucking scrubbing, or wiping, or drying the car. What on earth could she feel she did that required a tip? I said works, handed her a 20. She gave me $3, expecting I'd just leave her the change. Is she just trying to prove that she could count? Is counting a tip-worthy service? Well, maybe she had to press a little blue button to get the gate allowing us to drive through. I don't know. When I understand that many restaurant servers are still making $2.13 an hour, leaving a great tip is easy to swallow. When the douchebag staring at his phone at the car wash makes $15 an hour, why would they expect a tip? My wife runs the window on our food truck. She takes orders, answers questions, holds pleasant conversations. She is like a trap door. She remembers nearly every face in order. She kills it on the tips. Do people tip her feeling obligated, or do they watch her make sure every order is up to standards? Carefully bagged. Every condiment, napkin, and utensil is included on each order. She doesn't expect tips, but it's an amazing gesture to show her appreciation for her attentiveness and smiling face. Then you have the UPS guy who just scanned my phone, printed a sticker, and I was on my way. How much of a tip is that worth? How about the pit crew at the oil change place? It's a service, and I've recently seen tip jars there. Is there a precedent for tipping people who fix your car or change your oil? Sure. I remember in the early days of my youth, going to the gas station with mom and dad. It wasn't just a gas station carryout, it was an actual service station. Some dude would come out dressed in his blue greasy uniform, his name tag would say Bill, and he'd come out, pump gas, then he'd raise the hood, check fluids, wipe the windshields, then collect payment for gas and accept a small tip. How small? Like a quarter. A fucking quarter. Back in the early 80s, this guy probably made $2 an hour. So if he could get 8 quarters an hour, he was, in essence, doubling his pay. Could you imagine tipping your plumber? Or the carpenter? Or the lawn guy? I don't know, they make enough money. Well, what about the Uber driver? Oh, yeah, at least $10 depending on how far the ride is. Do you tip the bus driver? Hell no, it's different. How? They're driving you around, just like Uber. How about this? Driverless taxis are coming. They're already terrifying folks in certain cities. Do you tip the car for the car ride? Why on earth would we start tipping objects? Well, there's kiosks now, almost everywhere we go. No human, a screen takes your order, and you know what I see at every counter? A tip jar. You know who I think deserves tips? First responders. Firemen. This guy saves a house. Gee, thanks. Policeman saves the day. Gee, thanks. How about the ambulance driver who gets you to the hospital just in the nick of time to save your life? Gee, thanks. I know, it's the new normal. Tip everyone. Next time you tip your Uber driver for getting you from the bar to your front door, think about the paramedic who gets to drive folks from their houses and accidents all the way to hospitals. They don't make shit. These guys are saving lives for less than the prick who stirred your latte. The tipping is just the tip. Far too many people are underpaid for the real, actual, important jobs they perform. Not many ever receive a tip, nor do they feel entitled to one. We need to get back to rewarding service personnel for going above and beyond, instead of continuing to feel shame for not tipping because they expect one. Next time you're at the small diner, you should leave your server the same tip you'd leave at the fancy steakhouse. That's if your service was fucking awesome. These are truly the people that need it the most. While they may not be saving lives, you may very well be saving their life, as these folks lose the most due to antiquated wage laws allowing them to be paid less than a cup of coffee per hour. That's a fucking shame. Well, we could go on all day and I'm out of time here. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, follow Chubby Snowbird at Instagram, X, and TikTok if it's still around. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time. Peace out.